intricate diagrams carved into the surface of the Earth.
There are over 800 straight lines. One has to wonder, what was it for?
Massive depictions of animals and strange beings, seen only from the sky.
There's an enormous amount of mystery about the Nazca lines. Who could have done this and why?
Have you ever stood before something so massive, so ancient, that it felt impossible? Deep in the Peruvian desert lies one of humanity's most puzzling creations. For nearly a century, scientists walked these sands, documenting giant carvings etched into the earth. A spider stretching 50 meters, a hummingbird with wings wider than a football field. Designs so enormous, you need to fly above them just to understand their shape. Welcome to Amazing Earth.
Huge drawings etched into the Peruvian desert plains. Birds.
Researchers spent entire lifetimes here. They believed every secret had been found, every line documented, every mystery solved. Until 2024, when artificial intelligence did something extraordinary. In just 6 months, AI discovered what humans missed for 100 years. Not 1, not 10, but 303 hidden geoglyphs buried beneath the sand. And here's what will blow your mind. The AI detected over 1,000 more sites that haven't been checked yet. But the real shock? These discoveries revealed a 2-level communication system. The Nazca weren't just creating art, they were building something far more sophisticated, a message that waited 2,000 years to be understood. Stay with us as we uncover how technology finally cracked this ancient code, and what it tells us about a civilization lost to time, the desert that kept its secrets. Southern Peru holds a distinction most places would never want. It ranks among the driest locations on our entire planet. Each year, less than half an inch of rain touches this parched earth. To give you perspective, that amount would barely fill a coffee cup halfway. Most years, the sky remains cloudless for months on end. The sun beats down relentlessly on endless stretches of reddish-brown sand and rock. Yet this brutal dryness became an accidental guardian of history. What nature took away in water, it gave back in preservation. Around 200 BCE, something remarkable began happening in this desolate landscape. The Nazca civilization started creating artwork on a scale that seems impossible even by modern standards. They had no bulldozers, no laser-guided equipment, no computer-aided design software. Their toolkit consisted of wooden stakes, lengths of rope, and an understanding of geometry that would impress today's mathematicians. The technique they developed was surprisingly straightforward, though executing it required extraordinary precision and teamwork. The desert floor consists of layers. On top sit dark reddish pebbles, oxidized by millennia of sun exposure. These stones create the desert's characteristic rust-colored appearance, but underneath this surface layer lies lighter-colored sand, protected from oxidation by the rocks above. Nazca workers would carefully remove the top layer of dark pebbles along predetermined lines. They would pile these removed stones along the edges of their clearings. The result? Lines and shapes of pale sand contrast dramatically against the darker surrounding desert. The designs became visible not through adding material, but through subtraction. They carved with absence rather than presence. Some of these lines stretch rulers straight for kilometers across the desert floor.
Many of the lines at Nazca go for miles, perfectly straight through the desert.
Engineers today still marvel at how the Nazca maintained such precise straightness over such distances without surveying equipment. Other designs form elaborate figures, animals captured in mid-movement, birds frozen in flight, geometric patterns whose complexity suggests sophisticated mathematical knowledge. The scale is what truly takes your breath away. Consider the monkey figure. Its tail spirals outward in a perfect coil that measures 90 meters from end to end. Stand on a soccer field and walk from goal to goal. That's roughly how long this single feature stretches. The condor spreads its wings across 135 meters of desert. That's longer than an American football field, including both end zones. Here's where things get strange. When you stand next to these figures at ground level, you can't comprehend what you're looking at. Your eyes see lines and clear areas, but your brain can't assemble them into recognizable shapes. The perspective is all wrong. You're too close, like trying to appreciate a painting with your nose pressed against the canvas.
It looked like something had pressed the whole ground down at least 24 inches.
These designs only reveal their true forms when viewed from high above. either from nearby hills or, ideally, from the air. This created a puzzle that haunted researchers for generations. Why would the Nazca invest enormous effort in creating artwork they couldn't properly see themselves in? They had no aircraft, no hot air balloons, no drones. Standing on the ground, they would see only fragments of their own creations. So who was the intended audience for these massive figures? Theories multiplied over the decades. Were the drawings offerings meant for gods looking down from the heavens? Some researchers suggested exactly that.
Is an indication that they were used as navigational markers for the gods when they were actually here.
Others proposed that the lines served astronomical purposes, perhaps tracking the sun's movement or marking important celestial events. More fringe theories suggested alien visitors or lost advanced technologies.
And this is where aliens or some kind of people with flight had to be involved with the creation of the Nazca lines.
The Nazca people themselves left no written records explaining their motivations. No ancient manual titled "Why We Made Giant Desert Drawings" was ever discovered. The artwork existed, magnificent and mysterious, but its purpose remained locked in the past. Still, documentation continued. Research teams developed routines. They would arrive during southern Peru's winter months, May through October, when temperatures were slightly more bearable. They walked the desert in careful patterns, covering the same ground multiple times from different angles and in different lighting conditions, eyes constantly scanning for subtle irregularities, a slight color variation here, an unusual arrangement of stones there. When researchers spotted something promising, the real work began. Photography from multiple angles, precise measurements, detailed notes about location, orientation, and condition. Each discovery was cataloged and added to the official record. The process was exhausting, time-consuming, and absolutely necessary. By 2019, 100 years after serious scientific study began, the official tally stood at 430 confirmed figurative geoglyphs.
By using AI, the team identified more than 300 new figures.
4 centuries of human civilization had been documented through a century of human effort. Most experts felt confident they had discovered the vast majority of what existed. Perhaps a few more figures remained hidden, but surely nothing major had been overlooked after such thorough searching. Confidence often arrives just before surprise. In this case, artificial intelligence was about to prove that human eyes, no matter how trained and dedicated, had missed hundreds of hidden messages waiting beneath the desert sun. When computers started seeing what humans couldn't, Dr. Masato Sakai from Yamagata University in Japan had spent years studying the Nazca lines. He understood the traditional methods better than almost anyone. He also recognized their limitations. Human researchers could only cover so much ground. Eyes get tired, attention wanders. Subtle patterns might be overlooked simply because a person happened to look away at the wrong moment. But computers don't get tired. They don't lose focus, and they can analyze millions of data points in seconds. In 2019, Dr. Sakai's team partnered with IBM Japan to develop an AI system specifically designed to hunt for geoglyphs. They started by feeding the AI high-resolution satellite imagery of the entire Nazca region. That meant analyzing 629 square kilometers of desert. For perspective, that's roughly the size of Chicago. Next came the training phase. The researchers showed the AI every single one of the 430 known geoglyphs. The computer studied their characteristics, how the lines appeared in different lighting, how shadows fell across carved surfaces, the subtle texture differences between disturbed and undisturbed sand, the geometric patterns that human artists tend to create. The AI learned to recognize incredibly faint traces that human eyes would dismiss as random variations in the landscape. A slight color difference here, an unusual arrangement of stones there, patterns that emerged only when analyzing shadows cast at specific times of day. By late 2022, the training was complete. The researchers unleashed their AI across the satellite imagery of the entire region. What happened next sounds like science fiction. The computer began marking locations on the map. Each mark came with a probability score. There's a 73% chance a geoglyph exists here, an 84% chance here, a 91% chance at this location. Hundreds of potential sites lit up across the digital map. Dr. Sakai's team felt skeptical. These were areas that human experts had walked through repeatedly. Surely, if geoglyphs existed in those spots, someone would have noticed something over the past century. But the scientific method demands testing hypotheses, No matter how unlikely they seem, field teams traveled to the first location the AI had marked. They arrived expecting to find nothing. Instead, they found themselves staring at a humanoid figure carved into the earth. It was barely visible from ground level, its edges softened by 2,000 years of wind.
Peru's famous Nazca lines are gigantic prehistoric images etched onto the ground that were created some 2,000 years ago.
But it was definitely there. The AI was right. They checked the second location. Another geoglyph. A third location. Another one. Fourth. Fifth. Sixth. Location after location. The AI's predictions proved accurate. The field teams couldn't believe what they were documenting. These geoglyphs had been hiding in plain sight for millennia, and humans had walked right past them without noticing. The discoveries kept mounting. Human-like figures with elaborate headdresses, decapitated heads, likely representing ritual sacrifices, domesticated llamas in procession, birds in flight, abstract designs whose meanings remain mysterious. Each new find added another piece to an ancient puzzle. By the time the 2024 research paper was published, the results were staggering. The AI had discovered 303 new figurative geoglyphs in just 6 months of analysis. That's more than 2/3 of all the geoglyphs found during the previous 100 years of human searching. The known geoglyph count had nearly doubled overnight, but raw numbers only tell part of the story. The truly groundbreaking discovery was what these 303 new geoglyphs revealed about Nazca culture itself. 2 messages hidden in the sand. When researchers laid out all the data, comparing the newly discovered geoglyphs with the ones humans had found over the previous century, a stunning pattern emerged. The Nazca hadn't been creating random artwork scattered across the desert. They had been building 2 distinct communication systems, each serving a completely different purpose. The first type consists of the massive line-type geoglyphs. These are the famous ones you've probably seen in photographs. The monkey with its spiraling tail. The spider was frozen in mid-crawl. The hummingbird with geometric precision. These giant figures average around 90 meters in length. Some stretch even longer. When scientists analyzed what these huge geoglyphs depicted, they found something fascinating. About 64% of them show wild animals, condors soaring with magnificent wingspans, spiders that the Nazca would have encountered in the desert, orcas and other marine life from the nearby Pacific coast, snakes slithering across the sand. These weren't domesticated creatures. They represented the raw, untamed power of nature. And where were these massive geoglyphs located? Grouped around networks of perfectly straight lines and geometric shapes. Researchers now recognize these as ritual plazas, large open spaces where communities could gather for ceremonies. The huge animal figures marked sacred ground where people came together to honor the forces of nature and plead with the gods for survival in this harsh desert environment. Now compare that to the second type of geoglyph. These are the relief-type figures that the AI excelled at finding. They're much smaller, averaging around just 10 meters in length. Many are so faint that even when you're standing right next to them, they're difficult to distinguish from the surrounding terrain. The content of these smaller geoglyphs is dramatically different. About 81.6% of them show human-related imagery. Humanoid figures, often with elaborate headdresses or ritual clothing. Decapitated heads, what archaeologists call trophy heads, are clear evidence of human sacrifice. Domesticated llamas, the beasts of burden that were central to Nazca life. Scenes showing daily activities and spiritual practices. Even more revealing is where these smaller geoglyphs are positioned. They're not grouped in ceremonial plazas. Instead, they're placed along ancient walking trails, positioned an average of 43 meters from the path. That's close enough that a traveler would definitely notice them while passing by, but far enough that they wouldn't be damaged by constant foot traffic. Do you see what this means? The Nazca had created a sophisticated 2-level messaging system. The giant animal geoglyphs served as markers for communal ritual spaces. They were messages intended for groups, for ceremonies, for honoring the divine through collective worship. They addressed the gods and represented humanity's relationship with the powerful forces of nature. The smaller, human-focused geoglyphs served an entirely different purpose. They were individual messages for travelers. Visual reminders are placed along pilgrimage routes. They showed what the journey meant spiritually, the importance of sacrifice, the connection between humans and the divine, the taming of wild nature through faith and ritual. one civilization, two audiences, two types of messages, all part of a single integrated system. The sacred journey to Kawachi. Once researchers understood the two-message system, another mystery clicked into place. Where were all these pilgrims actually traveling to? What destination was important enough that an entire civilization would spend generations carving hundreds of messages into the desert to guide people there? The answer lies in the geography of the region. The Nazca Desert is brutally inhospitable. Water is scarce. Temperatures soar during the day and plummet at night. Very little grows naturally. For the Nazca people to survive here, they needed reliable access to water. That water came from the Ingenio River Valley, fed by runoff from the Andes Mountains to the east. The river valley provided everything necessary for agriculture and life. But the Nazca's spiritual center wasn't located in the comfort of the river valley. It stood out in the desert itself. Kawachi was magnificent. Constructed entirely from adobe mud bricks, this ceremonial complex covered 1.5 square kilometers. Its largest pyramid rose 28 meters high, taller than a 7-story building. To put the scale in perspective, Kawachi was larger than 200 football fields. It was the biggest ceremonial center of its era in the entire region. Archaeological excavations at Kawachi revealed incredible details. Colorful painted pottery depicting gods and mythological scenes, finely woven textiles showing advanced craftsmanship, musical instruments used in ceremonies, offerings of food, precious objects, and sacrificial victims, and repeatedly, evidence of human sacrifice, particularly the ritual presentation of severed heads. Now the geoglyph system made perfect sense. Pilgrims would begin their journey at the Ingenio River Valley, the source of life-giving water. From there, ancient trails led out into the desert toward Kawachi. As travelers walked these paths, the smaller geoglyphs reminded them of the spiritual significance of their journey. Images of sacrifice reinforced the seriousness of their pilgrimage. Depictions of humans and domesticated animals connected them to their community and their obligations to the gods. As pilgrims approached Kawachi, the landscape changed. Huge geoglyphs of wild animals appeared, marking ritual plazas where ceremonies began. These massive figures represented the untamed forces of nature that the Nazca people depended on. The condor, sacred bird of the Andes, marine creatures from the ocean that influenced weather patterns, desert animals that survived in this harsh environment. Communities would gather in these marked plazas. They would perform ceremonies asking the gods for rain, for fertile soil, for successful harvests. Then they would continue to Kawachi itself for the most important rituals. This wasn't random artwork. This was sophisticated urban planning on a massive scale. The Nazca had transformed their entire landscape into a sacred journey. Every element served a purpose. The trails guided movement. The small geoglyphs provided spiritual instruction. The large geoglyphs marked ritual spaces. And everything led to Kawachi, where the most sacred ceremonies took place. Racing against time. For 2,000 years, the Nazca line survived against impossible odds. Think about that time frame for a moment. These drawings existed before the Roman Empire reached its peak. They were already ancient when medieval castles were being built in Europe. They watched empires rise and fall, civilizations come and go. Through all of that, they remained largely intact. Their survival depended entirely on one environmental factor. The Peruvian coastal desert receives virtually no rainfall. Most years, not a single drop of water falls from the sky. This wasn't just good luck for preservation. This extreme aridity created a natural protective shield around the fragile geoglyphs. Without rain to erode them, without vegetation to overgrow them, without water to wash them away, the lines remained visible generation after generation. But that ancient protection is crumbling before our eyes. Climate change isn't a distant future threat for the Nazca lines. It's an immediate crisis unfolding right now. Weather patterns across South America are shifting in ways meteorologists find alarming. The region experiences more frequent El Niño events, and these events are growing stronger with each occurrence. El Niño brings something this desert rarely sees: heavy rainfall. When rain finally comes to a place that receives almost none, the results are catastrophic. The dry soil can't absorb water effectively. There's no vegetation to slow runoff. Flash floods roar down from the Andes Mountains, carving new channels through valleys that have remained bone dry for centuries. The water carries debris, rocks, and sand, scouring everything in its path. March 2017 brought exactly this nightmare scenario. Powerful storms dumped unprecedented amounts of rain across the region. Water cascaded down mountain slopes, gathering speed and force. When these floods reached the Nazca Plains, they showed no mercy. Several geoglyphs suffered direct damage. Ancient lines that had survived perfectly preserved for 2 millennia were partially erased in just a few hours. Workers who had spent their entire careers protecting these sites could only watch helplessly as muddy water rewrote history. The damage wasn't total, but it served as a wake-up call. What happened in 2017 could happen again next year or next month. Each storm system that approaches the region brings the same terrifying potential. History adds a layer of tragic irony to this situation. Around 500 CE, the Nazca civilization itself collapsed because of a climate catastrophe. A series of devastating floods destroyed their sophisticated irrigation systems that had sustained agriculture for generations. Their canals were buried. Their fields became useless. The agricultural foundation supporting their society crumbled. Within a relatively short period, a culture that had flourished for roughly 800 years essentially vanished.